Welcome back, everyone, to Watcher of All Things. My name is Kiki, and this is my podcast where I talk movies, TV shows, and all things entertainment. And today is episode 23, where, no, unfortunately, we will not be talking Kinds of Kindness because I have been bamboozled by the theater system and dates once again. I thought it was advertised everywhere that Kinds of Kindness was June 20th to 21st, but it's actually next week. So this week we're going to be talking the Bikeriders because I was planning on seeing both films this weekend anyways. Kinds of Kindness wasn't out, so I went and saw the Bikeriders instead on Thursday night. So yeah, we're going to talk about that instead, a movie that has been long delayed with the SAG-AFTRA strikes and everything. So I think it started being in development in 2017, 2018 or something like that. A long journey to get it made. But yeah, we're going to talk about that. I hope you had another phenomenal week. It's the Euros right now, so soccer's on, every day, and Copa America, so it's like soccer 24/7, so it's a dream for me. And The Boys is back. There's great TV shows on, so been a stellar week indeed. My first week as a university graduate. I guess it feels weird, feels different that you finish your work day and it's not like you have homework or like weekend assignments to do. It's like if you finish your work within the 8 hours, you call it a day and then you can go home and relax or do your home stuff that you need to do. And I don't know, what do you call chores as like an adult? I feel like adults don't call when they have to clean their home chores. Like, I'm 24, I live with my parents, but I'm not like, oh, I need to do my chores. It's like, no, I'm just going to empty the dishwasher, or I need to vacuum or whatever. I don't know. I think we should just universally use the term chores. Should we just all use that? But anyways, there's tons of news to get to. I hope you had a great week. And last week's episode, I said that I think the Florida Panthers are going to win the cup last weekend. Boy, oh boy, was I wrong, because they have blown 3 straight games, and now it's going to game 7, and the Edmonton Oilers, I think, are going to probably win the cup on Monday night now that they have this huge momentum swing, and it would be historic. The first time in 74 years that a team has come back from 3-0 down to force a game 7, so that's really cool. Only one team has ever won it from a 3-0 down position, so let's go Oilers. I hope they win it on Monday. But anyways, enough sports talk. I don't talk sports on here, really. Let's get into the news because there's lots to talk about. Well, a couple of years ago, Uncharted came out with Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg. It was extremely successful from what I remember. I know it wasn't critically amazingly received, but I know it was very popular at the box office, and everyone I knew had seen it, except me. I actually didn't go see it. I don't know why I didn't go see it. I think I'm just not a big Mark Wahlberg fan, so I never ended up going to see it. I like Tom Holland. I think he's good as Spider-Man, but I don't think he's very good in anything else, to be honest. It looks like Uncharted 2 is officially now in development at Sony. It was actually Sony themselves that confirmed this week that Uncharted 2 is officially in development, but it's very early stages. I think, Tom Holland is signed on. He's good to do it. Mark Wahlberg is going to come back. So Sony Pictures executive Steve Odell confirmed that Uncharted 2 is now in development with a presentation done at 2024 Cine Europe trade show. So they were talking about their future projects coming from Sony, and one of them was Uncharted 2 that had popped up, and that it's officially moving forward. The first film struck gold with a $139 million global box office opening weekend in 2022, leading Sony Pictures chairman and CEO Tom Rothman calling Uncharted a new hit movie franchise for the company, which, now it's a movie franchise. It was a very successful game series, so I'm not surprised at all that the movie did very well, considering also Tom Holland's the lead and he's very popular. He's very well liked. Like I said, I like him a lot as Spider-Man. Casting Spider-Man as your lead actor is definitely a way to draw in audiences. And there are very minimal details about this, but it looks like Mark Wahlberg had said a while back that Uncharted 2 had the script lined up and ready to go, according to IGN. And while there has been no confirmation of the cast, Wahlberg let it slip in February of this year that he got told to start growing a mustache in preparation for his role as Sully. Quote, I just got a call today that they got the script in. Start growing your mustache. It's going to take a while. So that's good. I think I should watch the first one. I mean, everyone that I talked to that had seen it said, you know what, it's like not great, but it's fun. It's a good like adventure movie. It's pretty like bog standard, but I really like adventure movies. I really like, National Treasure. That's one of my girlfriend's favorite movies, and every time I watch it, I like it even more. It's just like a classic adventure fun thing with the King Nicolas Cage, who I think he's in that new movie called Long Legs. That is a horror movie coming out, and I've only seen positive things about it. So that's another film that I'm really, really excited to see. But anyways, let's get back to more present times. Inside Out 2, what we talked about last week, it had a phenomenal week at the box office. Variety reported, box office, Inside Out 2 blasts past Dune 2 as 2024's biggest movie. Variety said that it's all smiles for Inside Out 2 as Disney and Pixar's animated sequel continues to dominate the box office charts in its second weekend. The emotional motion picture added $30.5 million on Friday alone, like one day. It's absolutely crazy how well the movie is doing, bumping its domestic haul to $285.7 million, which is enough to surge past Dune Part 2, which had $282 million, to become the highest grossing North American release of 2024 so far. Inside Out 2 has a shot at another record with potential to land the biggest second weekend ever for an animated film. That currently goes to last spring's Super Mario Brothers movie, which we talked about in one of the very early episodes, how well that did at the box office, which made $92.3 million in its second weekend. So yeah, really doing well. I think I said in my review last week, if I recall correctly, that I do think Inside Out 2 would be the box office, spark jump that we needed for this summer, even though we had been anticipating other movies to really do well, be The Fall Guy or Furiosa. And who was I talking about this week? Oh, I was at a work thing yesterday, a rare time I had to go into the office, actually. It was fun. We went for a National Indigenous Peoples Day seminar, and someone asked me, hey, did you see Furiosa? And, they had just started to think about going to see it, and it's been out for, a month now? Almost, I think it's a month this week that it's been out. And all I said was like, yes, I absolutely loved it. It is awesome. I love the Mad Max movies. And someone else there was also a huge fan of the Mad Max movies, and they hadn't seen it. So I was like, dude, go see it because it's really fun. And yeah, it's very strange to me that people will wait 6 weeks to go see a movie and then decide, okay, yeah, I'll go see it. It's like, what? I don't understand what changed your mind. It's not like there was a huge surge in the box office, but I think that also speaks to the fact that we should not be taking films out of theaters after 2 weeks of not doing well, because people will go see them. I'll talk about it more in what else I watched, but I took my friend to see Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes last weekend because he hadn't seen it yet. He really liked it. He seriously enjoyed it, and we watched War for the Planet of the Apes right before we went. But it was a full screen. Like, it was, every seat was taken in our theater. We were in one of the smaller screens, and I'm pretty sure like every seat was taken. So for like a 2 hour and 35 minute, the fourth Planet of the Apes movie of a new trilogy that came out on May 10th, and it is now, today is Saturday, June 22nd. That is very good, and that movie has just been chugging along. So leave movies in theaters for longer. Word of mouth will spread. Or, today is a rainy Saturday, and already 2 people I've talked to today or texted with have said, yeah, I'm thinking about going to the movies actually to see Inside Out 2 or Furiosa. So I believe in Canada, Furiosa is still, yes, it is, because it was in the screen next to me when I saw the Bikeriders. And, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is still in theaters, but then you have movies like The Fall Guy that get taken out after, 2 weeks? So I don't know. I don't get it, but I'm super happy that Inside Out 2 is absolutely killing it at the box office. That made me very happy. The first one was very successful from what I remember. So I'm very happy that Inside Out 2 is doing very well. And actually, you know what? I'll jump ahead to this story. I was going to talk about a couple other things before, but I'll get to them after. When I did see the Bikeriders, they played the Nosferatu trailer before, which is Robert Eggers' newest movie with one of the Skarsgårds. I think it's Bill Skarsgård, Lily Rose Depp, Nicholas Hoult. So the trailer hasn't been released widely. It's only playing before the Bikeriders. So that was a really nice feature of going to see the Bikeriders, is you get to see a trailer exclusively. But the trailer will release widely on Monday, and I have to say it was one of my favorite trailers this year since January, I think, that has come out, about because it looks terrifying. It creepy as hell. Cinematography is absolutely gorgeous. The cast is really good in general. It has like Willem Dafoe as well in it. I didn't even mention him, but yeah, that looks really awesome. So maybe next week I'll talk about it a bit more once it's released widely on Monday. But I just wanted to mention that because go see the Bikeriders, because you can see the Nosferatu trailer on a big screen before you go and see a new movie that's pretty good. I really like Robert Eggers. I haven't seen The Witch, which was his first movie, but I loved The Lighthouse so much. The Northman, I freaking love that movie. It goes so hard. I mean, we get a cool naked cave fight at the end of it, but yeah, Nosferatu looks like another big hit, which he had been working on for a while. In some other news, it looks like Beef Season 2 has had a little bit of a shakeup with the cast, or it's not worked out how we thought it was going to. So originally, it was going to be Charles Melton, Kaylee Speeney, feuding with another couple, that is Jake Gyllenhaal and Anne Hathaway. Well, it was reported widely this week that it is now going to be Oscar Isaac and Carey Mulligan that are feuding with the younger couple of Charles Melton and Kaylee Speeney, which, in my opinion, I like Anne Hathaway in most of the things she's done, and as a person she seems very fun, and I like Jake Gyllenhaal in a lot of stuff, but this is a big upgrade for me because I think Oscar Isaac is one of my favorites, and Carey Mulligan is so phenomenal in everything she does. She's in one of my favorite movies, Drive, and I absolutely love her. That was the first movie I ever saw her in, I believe. But anyways, they have replaced Jake Gyllenhaal and Anne Hathaway as the other couple that are feuding with this younger couple. So Deadline was reporting that following a breakout first season that included a sweep at the Emmys for the Netflix and A24 anthology series Beef, is zeroing in on some high-profile talent for its second season. Sources tell Deadline that Oscar Isaac and Carey Mulligan are in negotiations to star in season 2. As Deadline had previously reported, Charles Melton and Kaylee Speeney will also appear in season 2, and Netflix has had no comments on the matter. It was rumored originally that it was going to be Jake Gyllenhaal and Anne Hathaway, but ultimately that did not come to fruition. And I read in a couple places that it wasn't like anything creative or it didn't work out. It was simply scheduling, which that happens, all the time. People just don't end up being in things after signing on because of scheduling issues, so they have to drop out. It's nothing personal. There's no drama behind it. To me, I sent it to a friend and I said, oh, this seems like a bit of an upgrade to me. And he agreed with me because I do think, Oscar Isaac and Carey Mulligan seem a little more interesting and different to me, whereas Anne Hathaway and Jake Gyllenhaal together would just be kind of vanilla and boring. So I like this. I think this is a good shakeup of the cast, and I think Charles Melton and Kaylee Speeney as the younger couple, like I said a couple weeks ago, I love Kaylee Speeney, what she's doing, like all of her choices, and like other performers like Hunter Schafer, so very happy with that. I really enjoyed Beef Season 1. That was one of like my favorite shows last year. It was very fun. Steven Yeun is, again, I say this about so many performers, but he is truly someone that I enjoy watching in everything he's in. Like Invincible, I think he is just great as Mark Grayson, so season 2 should be really cool. I'm kind of bummed that Ali Wong and Steven Yeun aren't coming back because they are doing an anthology series, but it's kind of fun to get anthology series like a, Fargo or whatever. Couple more pieces of news, but first I just wanted to mention the passing of Donald Sutherland, who unfortunately died this week at the age of 88 after a long battle with illness. Donald Sutherland, a Canadian legend, him and his son Kiefer, they have been pillars of the Canadian acting community for a long time. It was widely reported this week, but I think the first person, of course, to which I really appreciated was that his son Kiefer was the first person to post about it or kind of release it, that in fact his father had passed away. So very sad, but I just quickly wanted to mention that, he was the star of Hunger Games and MASH and just so much more. He's 88 years old. Kiefer Sutherland, he posted, with a heavy heart, I tell you that my father, Donald Sutherland, has passed away. I personally think one of the most important actors in the history of film. Never daunted by a role, good, bad, or ugly. He loved what he did what he loved, and one can never ask for more than that. A life well lived. And it was just really nice to see so many phenomenal tributes, even from people that didn't even work with him. Lovely posts everywhere this week and people remembering him. I mean, for a lot of people my generation, he would be just Cornelius Snow from the Hunger Games, and that was what I first knew him as. He's in other things. I mean, he was, he's in Horrible Bosses as the original boss at like the car dealership or whatever. So a really phenomenal actor, and he's a legendary actor, and he will definitely be missed. Okay, couple more pieces of news before we get into the Bike Riders. The long-awaited Batman Caped Crusader animated TV show, which was originally being shopped around after it turned out it wasn't going to be an HBO Max or a Max program. It's now Amazon. Well, the voice cast has been revealed, and we have a release date. Prime Video announced on Thursday the cast for its upcoming DC animated series, Batman Caped Crusader, including who is going to be playing Batman himself. And Midnight Mass star Hamish Linklater will play Batman in the animated series, and it was really cool. They released a cast list narrated by him in his Batman voice, and it's going to be premiering August 1st, and I'm quite sure that all episodes are dropping at once, so that's not great. But some of the other cast members, we got Christina Ricci as Catwoman, Jamie Chung as Harley Quinn, and Diedrich Bader as Two-Face. Yeah, so his voice, Hamish Linklater, it's okay. I think he's trying to do I don't want to be like harsh. I don't think he's trying to do anything. I think he's doing like a fine standard Batman voice that I think most performers would probably go with. It's like kind of forcibly low and gravelly rather than, Val Kilmer, or I have to say Robert Pattinson is probably my favorite Batman voice because it is kind of just an effortless, quieter, held back voice, and it's not like Christian Bale's is just really crazy and kind of funny looking back on it, even though he's, my second favorite Batman or whatever. But I really like what Val Kilmer and Robert Pattinson did with the voice. Kevin Conroy, of course, is the best Batman voice by far of any property. Nobody can touch Kevin Conroy as Batman. He is, he's arguably the best Batman, even though he was only once Batman in live action. So I think this looks good, though. I like that it's like a 1940s golden age type story, which is really cool. Comes out, August 1st. So maybe if all 10 episodes are out, if they do drop all at once, I would be happy to do an episode on that, to be honest, because that is something that has been long in the works and very hyped. We got like other DC news like I talked about last week. We got, I don't know if people saw this, there was like a leaked Daily Planet story from the Superman movie where it's Clark Kent writing a story about himself. Well, not himself, but he's writing about Superman saving like a metro train, and it's written by Clark Kent. So everybody on Twitter was just laughing about it, that while Clark is just reporting on himself, basically. So I saw a funny tweet. It was like the Barack Obama putting the purple medal on himself. There's like that meme that people use of Barack putting the medal on himself. Well, they used it. They photoshopped David Cornsweat Superman putting the medal on himself. So, but that looks really cool. That's another thing I'm looking forward to. And we get Creature Commandos at the end of the year. Yeah, this is just another DC project this year that I'm really looking forward to. I like that they're just like mixing it up with what they're doing. Okay, I'm gonna wrap up the news there. That has been it this week. Lots of good stuff. We're getting our release dates fine. I'm really liking, like I said last week, that it feels like we've truly moved on from pandemic delays and writer strike delays. Like I feel like if a project is going to happen, it's going to happen now. Like the Batman 2, I am stressed, a little worried that it is going to be possibly canceled. I don't think it is, but there's always just that lingering factor in the back of my mind. But this week we did get the Penguin trailer, which by the way looks amazing. That looks like that's going to be such a good show. It comes out in September. But yeah, I think we have kind of moved on from the pandemic and writer strike delays, which it's good. It's like we finally have some relief that people can plan projects and they'll just go through the normal hell that they go through instead of, out of world and industry issues. So that's been the news this week. Let me know, what did I miss? What did you read about this week that you heard of and you want me to talk about, or that got you excited, or casting news, whatever it is. But you know what? Let's get into our review of Not Kinds of Kindness, unfortunately. Let's do our Bikeriders review. The Bikeriders is technically a 2023 film, but it hasn't released anywhere until now. It's much like Hitman, where it was only, I think it did a couple of festivals, but because of the writer strike, it didn't come out. So I'm counting it as a 2024 film. Same with Hitman. I'm putting it on my 2024 list. I don't care, which, just briefly, I am thinking that perhaps when I hit 25 movies watched this year, like new movies, I might do an episode like talking about the year so far. I think that might be a fun episode to just kind of, take a step back and not just review one thing, but kind of talk about, the year we've had in film and televisions and reflect on that. But anyways, The Bikeriders, 2023. It's a crime thriller, biker gang movie. It's an hour and 56 minutes. Currently has 82% on Rotten Tomatoes, I believe. Yeah, 82% on Rotten Tomatoes with a 73% audience score. So, mostly positive. It has a 7.3 average IMDb score. Google's in a nutshell is heartfelt, violent, and raw. saw. I would, largely agree with that. Or, cool. It's directed by Jeff Nichols. It's distributed by Universal Pictures and Focus Features. It had been kind of moved around. It was supposed to come out last summer, I believe. Or no, sorry, I think in December. And it got pushed to this summer because of all the strikes. And it was just delayed because I think the distributors dropped the film and then it was taken over by possibly Universal Pictures. But it's based on The Bikeriders by Danny Lyon. It had a pretty okay box office, I'd say. I think it opened to 4 million on Thursday night or Friday. Can't remember. It's cinematography by Adam Stone, which is really good. 71% on Metacritic. So, it's a generally favorable reviews from what I've seen, and from myself, it was a favorable review. But it has been a very well received, not glowing out of this world reviews, but people are liking it. People are enjoying it. The synopsis: over the course of a decade, a Midwestern motorcycle club evolves from a gathering place for local outsiders to a sinister gang threatening the original group's way of life. That is a fair synopsis. That is fine, Google. But I think the film is more than that. You know what? Let's get into the cast first, as always. Let's talk about who is in this movie. It stars Jodie Comer as Kathy Bauer, Austin Butler as Benny Bauer, Tom Hardy as Johnny Davis, Michael Shannon as Zipco, Mike Feist as Danny Lyon, Norman Reedus as Funny Sonny, Boyd Holbrook as Cal, Damon Harriman as Brucey, Bo Knapp as Wahoo, Emery Cohen as Cockroach, Carl Glesman as Corky, Toby Wallace as The Kid, Happy Anderson as Big Jack. The budget, 30 to 40 million, so not outrageous, pretty good. I think, what was it, in my Hitman review, I said I really like the budget of some of the movies we're getting now, that we are getting big star films that are being made for 30 to 40 million, which is pretty small. I mean, that's, to us normal folk like myself, that's more money than I've ever seen or will see in my lifetime, maybe a cumulative over my lifetime. But 30 to 40 million is a very good budget. And on Friday it had made 4.1 million, so who knows, it might pick up steam considering who's in it. You never know. It premiered at the 50th Telluride Film Festival on August 31st, 2023, and was released in the United States June 21st, 2024, or everywhere. Originally scheduled to be released theatrically in the United States on December 1st, 2023 by 20th Century Studios, the release was delayed due to the SAG-AFTRA 2023 strike. Ultimately, Focus Features acquired the film rights under the producer New Regency, which I just want to give a shout out to New Regency. You know when a film's starting and it's showing all the production companies behind it and the distributors? New Regency has a sick intro thing. I don't know. I was just, the movie was starting and I was like, oh, that was a cool one. Whatever it was just the Shining R being made, but that is entirely beside the point. Music is by David Wingo, edited by Julie Monroe, and this is just a solid movie. As I said, it's based on The Bikeriders by Danny Lyon, and I like this movie. It was a very interesting movie that explores an interesting chapter in American history, and there's themes of, masculinity, male friendship, and the inaccessibility of people emotionally. And I'll start with the cast first, as I always do. Austin Butler, you might think he's the lead. I don't know. I feel like he's in most of the posters, kind of the head person on the poster. He is not the lead in this film. He is maybe a main subject matter that people in the film are talking about, but he was not the lead for me. I think it's really Jodie Comer, and Jodie Comer, she is the main in this, and she steals the show. I think she is absolutely phenomenal in this movie. She gives a really great performance as Kathy, who is an outsider coming into a group of outsiders of society that they are not, really embraced because of their nature and how they act or the ways that they, interact with others. But she is this outsider kind of trying to fit in with all of these people, or realizing that she can't get out because she just enjoys being a part of this group as well. There's one particular scene that I will save for spoilers, of course, where she gives a really terrifying emotion. It's a very disturbing scene, but she's really phenomenal. I think she steals every scene that she's in. Austin Butler, like I said, he's not the lead, and for me, he's fine in this movie. I don't think it's a blow you out of the water performance. He's not great. I don't think there's, gonna be any talk of Oscars or any awards for this, but he's not awful by any measure. He is totally fine, acceptable, does his job. He's just sort of around. I mean, he's kind of one-dimensional, I want to say. There's not really any particular scene with him that really stole the show for me, I want to say. There wasn't any scene that I can think think of right now where I was like, oh, he was so phenomenal in that scene. He's kind of just the same character in every scene to me, other than one scene towards the end. He's just kind of eye candy. I don't know. It's kind of, it's strange. Some scenes you're like, are they like, why is he posing like that? Or why is he just like acting like that? It's like he's just like trying to, I don't know, pose for the camera. And it really does feel like he is just this eye candy for the camera. I like his character because he's just so shut off and inaccessible for Kathy and Johnny. And we just keep wanting to know more about him. And speaking of Johnny, Tom Hardy, I think he is really good in this. He has possibly his funkiest accent / voice he's ever had in a film. He's constantly at odds with his own purpose and what this group is turning into, and with Jodie Comer's character, which I really like. I just like their dynamic in the story. He made the club and he's kind of watching it evolve, and he questions what it's becoming. And also just the supporting cast in this film is really great. Like I listed it there, but you have Michael Shannon, a small role. I really liked Boyd Holbrook as Cal. I thought he was very funny and just like kind of charming and endearing. And I don't know, it's just a really fun supporting cast of like misfits in this movie. They're all outsiders, and we're just watching them interact as a biker gang, and it's not like super intense like a show of Sons of Anarchy or whatever, all those shows. Like those are very crime drama heavy TV shows and programs, whereas this movie is kind of a little bit more simple and just painting us a picture of what this group was and how it changed over the years and stuff like that, which I really liked. There's a lot of goofy accent in this movie. I feel like everybody in the supporting cast, and especially Jodie Comer and Tom Hardy as the two leads to me, are putting on the goofiest of voices. It takes place in Chicago. They're the Chicago Vandals, and Tom Hardy's accent is hilarious. Jodie Comer's voice is just so funny. Like her accent is so, I don't know, off-putting. Like you're like, what the hell is this? But I really liked it, and I don't know, it might be off-putting to some people, like in a bad way. I understand that some people would like it, or I don't think it's hard to understand, but it's just like, why are they talking like that? And I can't take anything seriously because of the voices, but it's kind of endearing to like how real people talk, that accents always aren't clear cut and perfect. And I can't remember, I just briefly saw this clip of an interview with Tom Hardy and he was talking about his voice in it, and it's such an interesting choice that he was making. And he said something along the lines of like, audiences always want a clear cut accent of where exactly someone is from, and they have to have like a flawless particular regional accent, whereas his is a little more flowing and ambiguous at times. So I don't know, I really like that. Mike Feist plays the guy who wrote the book and is interviewing them. So he was a university student in LA. I can't remember where he went to school. It's mentioned in the movie. But anyways, he spent like 1969 to 1973, I believe, interviewing them. And it's kind of like, and up to like 10 years altogether or whatever. When he comes back after he's done school, he talks to them again. It's really cool having him in the scenes because he's not judgmental of the group at all. He's just like very curious and wants to know their story. And make sure as well you stay for the credits of the film because they show the real photos that he took, which is really cool because it's not like a regular book that he made. It is a photography book. So I really like that aspect because you get to compare how the film was and then how everybody looks in the photos. And I have to say they did like a pretty good job, and they don't label all the photos of who's who. You just kind of know, which I think is it's outstanding. The fact that the casting was very good in that sense. But Mike Feist is very good. He doesn't have a lot to do in this film, but every scene he is in is effective because he's doing his job as kind of this judgeless character coming from the outside, which I enjoyed. So yeah, he's good. He's having a really good year, of course, with Challengers in this movie. I think he's been in one better than the other, where he has much more heavy lifting to do in Challengers versus this one. But yeah, he's overall solid. I think the cast overall in this, Austin Butler, I don't think he's great in this, but I still think he's a good character that you want to follow and understand. And there's this inaccessibility about him that I really liked in the story that drew me in, because I'm like, hey, what is his deal? I don't get what he is looking for in life. I don't get what he wants. Are these people in love? Like, is he actually friends with these people or whatever? It's just, I like the emotional ambiguity. And I really just like the themes overall in this film of masculinity, friendship, camaraderie, and violence. And kind of, I don't know, this is just, I really like this era of history, especially American history, where the Vietnam War is going on and the civil rights movement. And and it's kind of this new generation figuring out how they want to mold themselves, and they're kind of this like in between generation. So the group starts as, you know, from just simply Tom Hardy saw Marlon Brando on TV with, what was it, a program, The Outriders or the Outlaws or something like, I think The Outlaws, right? He just, you know, he sees Marlon Brando on TV in a motorcycle gang, and it's like, oh, that's cool. We should have something, because they were originally just racing bikes for fun. And you know, the group starts as it says in the synopsis and in the trailer, the group starts as like this fun thing where guys can just get together and kind of, you know, everyone, and they say this multiple times in the movie, everybody just wants to be a part of something. And you want to feel like you belong with others who feel the way you do or just accept you for who you are. And like, we all look for that in life. That's why we have, I don't know, you know, sports teams, or we have chess club, we have AV club, we have whatever, we have school clubs, we have just also, you know, Facebook groups or subreddits of interest, because we all want to be a part of something where we have shared interests, whether they're, you know, harmful or not to others, unfortunately, is also part of it. But I think something good, like just simply liking motorcycles, is a harmless thing in how the group starts out, but it doesn't unfortunately get to just stay that way. Just the whole discussion of masculinity and friendship and camaraderie in this story is very interesting to me, and I liked how the story is like unpredictable to me. I didn't really know where it was going, or I wasn't trying to figure it out as it was going along. I was kind of just enjoying the ride. No pun intended, Bikeriders. That's a good one. I was just kind of enjoying the ride of where the story was taking me. If I had to sum up with a word, this movie, I would just say fragile. Like, all the friendships feel very fragile. This kind of, all the masculinity in the movie feels very fragile, and the characters' egos all feel very fragile, and just the story, everything about it is very walking on eggshells, because these people are told, I don't know, they're like told they can't be a part of society just simply because they like bikes. I mean, of course, they all have, you know, drinking problems and shit like that, and a lot of them use drugs, but they've all been through stuff and have all been kind of forgotten by society. So they turn to this group where they can just be a part of something, and people don't want them to be gone because of who they are or whatever. So I don't know. And just like, also the friendships in this are very fragile, whether it's Benny and Johnny or the marriage and love of Benny and Kathy. Everything feels very fragile, and that's something that does keep me interested in the story while I'm watching. And you know, you don't know where it's going, because everything feels like it's one step away from shit hitting the fan at any point. So it's very good in that sense, and I like that. I don't know, I like this story of all of these misfits just being together, and they're all very fragile human beings who don't really have a lot going on, and then they have this group. And you know, most of all, I think actually Johnny was my favorite character in this, Tom Hardy's character. Immediately after the movie, I was like, oh well, Kathy, Jodie Comer's character, was definitely my favorite. And then the more I've thought about this movie, I'm like, Johnny was such an interesting person, because he had a normal life before he made this group. He was a truck driver, he did well for his family, he had 2 beautiful daughters and a beautiful wife, he had a great house, he had a very good life. But he just like wanted to be a part of something and have something more just for himself, you know, like he just wanted to have a friend group that could all have an interest together, which we all can kind of relate to, you know, like it's fun, it's great to be successful in life, but you kind of want these emotional connections outside of your immediate circle. So I don't know, it's just fun to see the fragility of his life and his story, and him kind of losing a sense of the pulse, or, you know, having a pulse on things. And it's just a very interesting way the story goes. Although the movie is very conventional. There's not a lot in this movie that it's not predictable, but I don't think you'll be too surprised by anything that happens. It's not trying to be overly dramatic or fake things or just make it something into what it wasn't. You know, I think it is trying to honestly show what this group was like, and it's not trying to, I don't know, change things to make a movie that's more interesting. It's just, I think they're just trying to show these people for who they were. And, you know, the directing isn't flashy. The writing and the script aren't flashy. There's nothing flashy about this. It's a very simple story, which sometimes is nice. Sometimes you just get a simple story, and we're not used to that. I think every movie now has to have super high stakes. Like, I feel like every movie I'm watching is like life or death. I mean, this is, you know, life or death in some sense, but it's like world-ending things that we're experiencing, especially when every movie right now is kind of a superhero story or a huge sci-fi story that is end of the world, end of the universe stuff. So it's kind of nice to just watch, a nice personal story of this group changing. And it is it's not a spoiler to say this, it's a non-linear story in many aspects. Like it does kind of, because we're following Mike Feist's character interviewing Kathy, and he's asking her, how has your life changed over the past year? Has it changed over the past few years while being involved with Benny and being involved with this group? So we're kind of jumping back and forth between 1969, 1973, stuff like that, and it's not at all confusing. It's actually very well done, all the time jumps. Speaking like of another film that did time jumps this year, Challengers. I mentioned briefly in my review that my girlfriend who I saw Challengers with, she did find the time jumps a little bit messy in that movie, and I actually, looking back, I would agree. It's kind of hard to remember reflecting back on that story sometimes where things took place, but still a phenomenal movie, still like my second favorite movie of the year. But the time jumps in this are very simply done, and it's really well done, and it's fun to see how the characters are changing kind of year by year or at these different times and who they were at different times. So it can be messy when you do time jumps, especially in a film like Challengers where the events in their lives were just like so constant. But in this, it's like much more smooth, and also I think it's just like a simpler story actually in some weird way than a tennis movie, with a love triangle. Like this is somehow an easier story, a biker group. But yeah, I did like the non-linear story of this. I think that's really cool. And like it says it's a crime thriller, and yes it is, but the movie's not really driven by crime. I don't know. It's much more just bad things happening in their lives or circumstances around them. I don't know. It's not like they're not doing bank robberies. They're not going on massive heists or anything crazy like that. Like they get in fights or whatever, like regular biker gang stuff, guys being dudes, as they say, and broing out, It's not really a crime thriller though. There's no mystery to it that you're trying to figure out throughout the story. It's very much just a portrait of these people. It's just dramatic layers with some added crime and mischief with our different characters. It's much more anthropological film of like how societies function and how groups function, especially like groups of men in the era of Vietnam, and there's some older guys that probably were in World War II that are in like their 50s now or whatever, and then you have like also the next generation coming through. So I'd say it's much more documentary type. It's a weird energy while watching this film. I don't know if this is positive or negative. I would say maybe it is a negative in some sense. This is a critique I have. There's no real villain, and I have a couple Letterboxd reviews I want to read after that talk about this as well, but there's no villain in this movie. There's no real driving force. There's no main conflict. It's very pedestrian and just follows these people around in their lives, which is like, it's fun. It is fun. It is like a documentary where you're just following these people that happen to be a part of this group. And like I said, it's a very anthropological study, but you ask yourself why you should care sometimes. There's not much happening with these people. It is fun, and all they have with their personalities is the fact that they're in a biker gang, but there is like little leakings of the outer world getting into their group, talking about Vietnam or whatever it is, education and stuff like that, and some politics. The script is very solid dialogue-wise and doesn't have any issues there, and I think like the goal of this movie is simply to show another generation and what their lives were like. And if you want a movie like that, like if you're into historical films or, films that are talking about a life very different from yours and you want to escape to another world, I think this is a really good film for you. And if you like simple stories, this is a very simple story and you will very much enjoy this. It's not trying to be dramatic or a Hollywood story or a TV story, it's not trying to depict something that it wasn't, which I kind of appreciate. Like it's just trying to lay the facts of how the author of the book met these people and how he knew them, which I really enjoyed. It's a very interesting snapshot, and it's a very fun idea to just present this as a snapshot of a lifestyle and a world that isn't really around anymore. Like I feel like biker gangs like that, and you see it within the film how the group changes, as the synopsis says and all the trailers say, like how it kind of devolved into a crime group, but like what it originally was and the slow process of the group just turning into like a group of crime. I don't know, it is kind of, maybe that is a con and why I didn't love it so much, is there is no real real driving force to this story. You kind of have to be patient. No, you don't really have to be patient because there's always something going on that's interesting in the story. So, and it's under 2 hours. Like, it is a breezy film. It's paced really well. You're entertained the whole time, which, like, you can't ask for much more in a movie. So, I don't know. Having said all that, there is still something extremely entertaining and enticing about this, and you're never bored. You're really waiting for something big to happen, which doesn't really come until the last half hour is very good of this movie, and there is a lot of shit hitting the fan, which I enjoyed, but the rest of it is still very enjoyable. I don't think people are going to hate this. I don't think anybody hates this, and I don't know, I think if you do hate this, maybe I wouldn't blame someone if they really did not enjoy this, because a lot of films now, we've just like been programmed to expect big stakes, clear problems, clear villains, clear heroes, whereas it's very complicated people in this story that we don't really understand. And it's a world that we don't really understand. So, okay, I gave it 3.5 stars, 3.5 stars out of 5. I enjoyed it. It entertained me, but it didn't leave like a lasting impact on me. I wasn't completely floored and blown away. I would definitely watch it again, to be honest. I think this is a very interesting movie to watch, and I like who these people are. It's very interesting to learn about them. Has good performances, a fun script, cool bikes, I guess. And it's definitely worth watching, considering the ensemble for me. So there you go. That was non-spoilers for the Bikeriders. Okay, let's get into spoilers for this. So if you want to avoid spoilers, there's time codes below. You can jump ahead to that. I never really felt any chemistry between Kathy / Jodie Comer and Benny, Austin Butler. I feel perhaps if I had to pick one, I would say maybe Austin Butler was miscast in this. I think they just went with a young, handsome guy that's popular right now, where I think there were other people that maybe could have, I don't know. I just felt nothing between the two of them. It felt like their relationship was simply a film relationship. I didn't feel any spark, and I feel like they were just happened to be paired on screen. But I think they both give fine performances. I think Jodie Comer gives an amazing performance, or a really good performance. But for me, I just felt like their relationship, I didn't buy it. I didn't believe it. I didn't feel any authenticity or any real feelings between them. They have very touching moments between them, but yeah, I think that was very mismatched. I think Johnny, Tom Hardy's character, has great chemistry with everybody in this film. Like every scene he's in is just electric, and it is exciting. He has a real energy to him, and I just like thought of something quickly during the film while I was watching. I was like, man, Tom Hardy really never makes eye contact with people in scenes, in this film at least, and maybe, I don't know, other films as well, which I think is a very interesting technique, like blocking wise, or whether that's a choice he's making. I think it's a very dominant thing to do, to just never look the other person in the eye, that they're always looking at you for attention or approval, but you're not even like willing to give them a glance. I don't know. It's a very dominating thing, and I think that speaks to Tom Hardy's performance and choices he's making as an actor in the role of Johnny. I just think he's a very interesting character who's like, you know, he's this family man. He's a very normal dude when the movie starts, and we get like an introduction to the Vandals, the Chicago Vandals, or just the Vandals, I guess, that he just, you know, wanted to start a club because he liked motorcycles and bikes, and he wanted to, you know, give a place for cool guys to hang out together. And then you see him slowly losing grip on that. But all right, I want to talk about the scene that Jodie Comer particularly struck me in, and this is a content trigger warning for sexual violence. If you don't like this stuff, skip ahead like 30 seconds or 40 seconds. There is a scene where they're at a party, and it involves this red dress that she says she really likes this dress. So some of the nicer biker guys get it for her from this other girl, and it's kind of insinuated that this woman was happy to take the dress off and go upstairs with some other guys, which I don't think was the case. I think they did force her to go upstairs. But anyways, after that, all of the guys that Benny is friends with have to go outside because another character, Cockroach, I think, was bashed by some younger members. But anyways, Kathy is then approached by 3 of the younger members who want to force her to go upstairs and they want to force her to have sex with them. They want to commit group rape. And Jodie Comer is so terrifying in this scene, how afraid she is. She's screaming for help. And also just the directing in this scene is really well done, that she's looking upstairs where she knows the woman that she got the red dress from is up there, and whether that was against her will or not is playing in her mind. But it's a very well done scene. It really strikes you, and it's hard to shake off after that scene. Like, it really stuck with me after it happened. And Benny and Johnny are gone. Johnny comes to his rescue or her rescue and stops it from happening. But yeah, that was a very powerful scene that I think Jodie Comer really earned her stars in, and she did very well in that scene, because it is a hard thing to show honestly on film. It's something that, people don't, I don't know, it's a very difficult topic, but it was a really well done scene, so my hat's off to her. I loved every scene with Johnny and Kathy. They're fighting over Benny all the time, and they were the two most interesting characters to me. Like I said, they were the two leads in this. I think Tom Hardy and Jodie Comer are my favorite performers in this, and their characters are just so interesting every time they're on screen. They're duking it out for Benny's attention, who's just like inaccessible to everyone, because Johnny wants him to take over because people will listen to him. He'll bring kind of order to the group because he's this younger guy that people like, because he is so kind of nihilistic hotshot type thing. But then also, Kathy loves him apparently and wants to have a life with him. So that was just really good stuff. I really like that. And I like that aspect of the story of being in the group versus being in real life and maybe stepping away from the group, which is talked about at times. Like Cockroach steps away to become a motorcycle cop. Guys got to hand in their colors to leave the group, and they don't, they want to move on to other things. They want to be with their families or whatever. Let's talk a bit more about Benny. His story and ending are very interesting to me. I think, the performance from Austin Butler is mind-blowing, but I think just Benny as a character and his life in general are very interesting. So we're kind of introduced to him in this way that shows him as very unavailable. People tell him that he can't wear his biker stuff in this bar. He gets attacked, he cuts one of them in the face, and then he gets smashed in the head with a shovel and almost gets his leg chopped off. It's pretty crazy. It's a very good scene, and it's shown over two different scenes. But towards the end of the film, it's shown when we get a flash forward to 1973 when Kathy's being interviewed again, that Benny has been gone for a while. He kind of took off, and last year you heard he was in like Indiana or whatever. He does come back eventually and decides that he's going to settle down with her. But I really like that the whole story is kind of Benny just running away from any real responsibility or any real concrete things going on in life. Like, yes, he marries her after 5 months or 5 weeks or whatever it was that they're dating, but he doesn't really commit 100% to anything in life. And I feel like that contributes to him never really being happy in this story, because he never is contributing to anything meaningfully 100%. In the end, he comes back after we see all the interviews, and it's like 1973 that she's interviewed once again, and that particular interview is kind of split up throughout the story, and it revealed that he was actually just outside the house, because you aren't sure, like, oh, did he ever come back? And then it shows that he is come back, and they're happy now. They moved to Florida together. He's a mechanic in his friend's or cousin's shop or whatever it is. And yeah, I really like the ending of this movie. Benny's story is very happy, and he finally just kind of settles down, and he accepts the life that he has with Kathy, and I think he is happy in the end. He can look back on these crazy adventures, and sure, he does miss Johnny, who does die. I'll talk about that in a second, but I did really like the trajectory of Benny's story, even if I don't think the performance was very meaningful or like powerful. I like the character itself and that story, that type of character that we get. Like I said, there's themes of masculinity in this, and there's a lot of discussions of like, oh, I only ever saw my daddy cry twice, and that was when his daddy died, and blah blah blah, you know what I mean? Kathy talks about that she had only ever seen Benny cry twice, and that was when his father died, and one other time that I can't remember. But in the end, he comes back because Johnny has been shot, which I'll talk about in a second. He comes back and he's sitting outside on her steps. She comes outside. They don't really say anything, and he just bursts into tears, and it's a very touching scene. I think Austin Butler's fake crying wasn't mind-blowing to me. I was a bit like, okay, that's clearly a bit of a fake cry forced on. I just really like those discussions of crying and masculinity, and Benny kind of giving into his emotions finally and accepting his life now that Johnny's gone. I can't be this rebellious, nihilistic biker anymore. I need to just move on and find something concrete. So he does. He comes back, and maybe he has regrets of how things ended with Johnny, because when he first takes off, it's a particular night that Johnny asks him once again, like, Benny, I need you to take over. You're going to really bring order to things. People listen to you. I think even the the younger guys who are kind of the drinking generation versus the new generation who are all really into smoking pot and harder drugs after they come back from Vietnam and they've all really seen shit that messes them up. Yeah, Benny just takes off one night, and maybe he had questioned how he left things with Johnny for a lot of his life, but I just really like the ending that like the last frame of the movie is Kathy tells the interviewer guy, whatever his name was, I can't remember, Mike Faist's character, that look, we're happy now, and she looks outside at Benny, who's sitting in his driveway in his mechanic jumpsuit, you know, and he's sitting with his cousin or friend or whatever having a beer, and he's kind of smiling a bit, and then he looks up and you kind of hear the sound of motorcycles, and it's a very like heavenly sound with Johnny's voice or whatever, and I don't know, it's just a very nice ending. And okay, I'll finally talk about Johnny's death, because that was maybe one of my favorite parts of the movie, of Johnny just finally accepting that he's lost control of the group. So it's quite depressing. Basically, there's this idea that anybody can challenge Johnny for the presidency of the club through a fist fight or a knife fight, and this young guy that he denied earlier coming into the group because he was only 20 and he's kind of a joke and he abandoned his friends because Johnny tested him by saying, you can join, but your friends can't. And he's like, yeah, that's fine. And then Johnny's like, no, you never bail on your friends. Like, get out of here. Take your bikes and get out of here. Yeah, so he challenges him to a knife fight. Instead of them doing it fairly, the kid just takes out a gun and shoots Johnny in the chest. And it's a very shocking moment, because I think it sums up Johnny very well in this movie, that he never truly has a grasp on things or understanding of this new generation and how messed up they were after Vietnam and how cutthroat they are compared to the older generation. And him not anticipating that is maybe an indication of who he was, but also I think perhaps he did. I truly do think he knew he was going to die that night going into the fight. I think he knew he was going to lose the knife fight, but perhaps he didn't anticipate that he would just be shot instead. But I did get this feeling going into the knife fight that, okay, Johnny has accepted his fate tonight. I think Johnny knows tonight he's dying. You know, he has one last look at his wife and she's like, oh, can you get a carton of eggs when he comes home? He's like, yeah. And he just walks out and he goes and sees Kathy one more time. You know, she says, Benny's not here. What do you want? He's like, oh, nothing. I'm just seeing how you are. And she's like, are you okay? And like, she can tell something's up. And he's like, yeah, I'm just coming to say hey, it's all, but all right, I'll see you later. And, you know, that's the last time she sees him, because he just gets shot in cold blood that night. And a very powerful scene. Shows what these younger guys were willing to do for power, and also the evolution of the group, that it had gone from just a bunch of guys being friends and being a part of something to it is truly a meaning of power and crime in America at this point. I really liked it. To me, it was a happy ending story that Kathy and Benny are able to move on with their lives, and people could get out of that situation by, you know, packing it up and moving. But yeah, that's been the Bikeriders. I'm going to read a couple Letterboxd reviews quickly before we get into what else I watched. First one comes from Cobb, who is a patron on the or on Letterboxd, sorry. The Bikeriders, 4 stars. Might be Tom Hardy's wildest accent yet. Yeah, it's a crazy voice he's doing. Like, it is so funny, but I have to agree. I think it is maybe my favorite accent he's done. I can't stand what he does with Eddie Brock, but Brooklyn, who's another patron on Letterboxd, said 3.5 stars, the Bikeriders. The middle-aged woman and the literal Bikeriders had the same reaction to Austin Butler's first scene. His hotness connects us all. And actually, the poster for the Bikeriders on Letterboxd is often the picture of Austin Butler. So very goofy. Yeah, it was a very weird. He's like literally mewing in half of this. 3.5 stars from Julia, another patron of Letterboxd. Your unemployed friends at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. Yeah, it's kind of crazy how much spare time these guys have just like being bike riders, and their whole personalities are just being bike riders. Let me just read one excerpt of this really great review by Matt, who is a pro member of Letterboxd. He gave it 3.5 stars. He said, in one paragraph, he says, "It feels weird watching this. So much of me wants to be deeply invested in the rich tapestry of a time capsule Nichols has crafted, with effortlessly cool, easy rider-esque characters aplenty, and yet I find myself continually asking, wait, what's the driving plot again? Why should I care? There's no actual goal, no bang to start things off, no ongoing problems to contend with. The story meanders aimlessly through interview clippings collected over the course of several years, resulting in some sort of seemingly pointless slice of life, a film that lacks the thematic coherence of something you'd similarly find from Richard Linklater or Paul Thomas Anderson. Is it Jodie Comer painting the picture of a lifestyle lost to a past generation? Is it Austin Butler emulating the cynical, pessimistic, nihilistic, rebellious attitude of the post-Vietnam American youth? Is it Tom Hardy trying to maintain control over a set of values he foolishly believed could survive the cultural movement he inspired? Or is it just Hardy desperately concealing the massive man-crush boner he has for Butler? Maybe it's all of that. Maybe it's nothing. I don't know, man. Yeah, I'll leave the Letterboxd reviews at that. Yeah, that's been the Bikeriders. I would suggest it. I think people would get a kick out of the story. It's just like a cool biker gang story with recognizable actors and actresses that we all know. So check it out. All right, what else I watched this week? Under Paris. I meant to talk about this last week, the Shark Under Paris story on Netflix. What a goofy, hilarious, crazy, unserious movie. It's in French, so if you're fine watching movies with subtitles, which I think you should be because, like, get over it that there's some stuff you have to read while you're watching. I meant to mention it last week. It's really bad, but it's actually so funny and fun to watch, so I would oddly recommend it. The CGI, terrible. The acting, terrible. The CGI shark is so mind-blowing in this, and the explosions and the effects, like, oh my god, it looks like it was shot on like the Google Pixel thing that I've talked about before, where you could put like Star Wars characters in your photos or whatever. It looks like it was shot on that, but it's super funny and enjoyable. It's just, you know, it's a goofy Netflix movie. It's a French Netflix movie that I really enjoyed. I watched it a couple weeks ago and I forgot to mention it last week, so I recommend watching that. Also, The Boys came out or started last week. We've had 4 episodes. I seriously love it. I was totally mistaken. Last week, when I first saw the Rotten Tomato reviews, it was currently at like 77, but it had only had a few reviews. Right now, it's at like 93% critic score, which is very good. Season 1 is like 85, and the last 2 seasons have been 97, 95, and this one's 93, and I really like this season. Last night, I watched episode 4, which is maybe one of my favorite episodes of The Boys ever. It was so good. I think Anthony Starr maybe could get an Emmy nomination for this season as Homelander. I think he's really changed his Homelander storyline, and I like what they're doing with this season. There's more characters, but it doesn't feel like sometimes in shows, like a classic Stranger Things problem is every season they bring new characters in that I just wouldn't really care about. Whereas The Boys this season has brought new characters in that have kind of got us going again with the story. And I'm really liking season 4, and I think they're setting up a phenomenal final season. So I would totally recommend, if you watch season 1 to 3 of The Boys and you're unsure of watching season 4 and don't know whether you want to commit, I would, because it's seriously good. I loved season 3 with like Soldier Boy. I was disappointed by the ending with what they did, but I like season 3 as a whole, and I think season 4 is really setting up something great that's going to happen. So check that out. Also, I finished season 16 of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I've mentioned it to my brother, and I watched a couple episodes with my friend. It was so funny. Probably my favorite episode was the celebrity alcohol episode with Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul. My favorite line of the season was Charlie saying, "Sorry, I think I'm having a reaction to the metals," because he made a drink called Nickelschlager, where he just chopped up a bunch of nickels or shaved nickels and put it into schnapps or whatever and tried to sell it like Goldschlager. It's so funny. What a good season. Sunny has only ever had like one bad season, like I said. And yeah, I absolutely loved it. There's also like the bowling episode was really good. I think the season finale, Dennis Takes a Mental Health Day, was so funny. They finally just had like a straight up Dennis episode where he's daydreaming about being a psycho. And it reminded me a lot of the Charlie Work episode, but I was absolutely floored by the Dennis episode. I thought Glenn Howerton was so awesome in that episode. He has to constantly download a friggin' app for everything, and it was really funny. I seriously thought it was such a great episode, like a good starting episode with the gang inflates or whatever it was called. The gang does inflation. The chess episode was really good with the butt plug, and yeah, it was really funny. The bowling episode, the celebrity alcohol episode, I really enjoyed the entire season, I have to say. As I briefly mentioned as well, my friend and I watched War for the Planet of the Apes and Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes because those were the only 2 he hadn't seen. He really liked them. Like, he thought they were totally awesome. Of course, I had seen them before. I did an episode of Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which you can go back and listen to, which I would highly recommend, especially if you just watched the movie as well, because it is still chugging along in theaters, as I said. On second view of Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, I enjoyed it even more. Believe it or not, I actually enjoyed it even more. I loved it the first time. Like, I really thought it was a solid movie. Perhaps the first time I watched it, I thought they spent too much time summing up what had previously happened, but on second viewing, I feel like I was actually a bit wrong about that. They don't dwell that much on the past and over explaining to us. So I really had a lot of fun. You know, my friend and I were talking about after that, it's like, it's not a reboot, but it's a continuation or like a Lego sequel to the previous trilogy. But what's so great about Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is it has so many of like original elements of the other movies without feeling like a cheesy, forced adding of them. Like, it just feels very organic, and it's so sparingly how they're used. I don't know. I can't remember what we mentioned specifically, but it just like really good. I don't know. It just feels like a Planet of the Apes movie. You know, it feels like a perfect continuation, whether it be the music or just the characterization of the apes or whatever. It just feels like such a great continuation of that. And as for War of the Planet of the Apes, I hadn't seen that movie since I think 2022. I watched it before the Batman came out. I watched all of the Matt Reeves ape movies and Rise of the Planet of the Apes because I was just watching the trilogy. War for the Planet of the Apes is really solid to me. I think it's my favorite Planet of the Apes movie, definitely. I love what Woody Harrelson does in that movie. I think Caesar's journey is so fascinating, what happens with him and his power dynamics with like all of the apes together. So War for the Planet of the Apes is so awesome. I think people should really watch the trilogy and then go watch Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. 1000% I would recommend that. And I think that's going to do it for episode 23, The Bikeriders. Wow, 23 episodes of Watcher of All Things. That's crazy. Yeah, maybe episode 25 we'll do like a year in review, kind of talk about, or the year so far, rather. I think that would be a fun thing to do because why not? There's been lots of stuff that's come out, but also talk about TV a bit more. Now that summer, a lot of shows are coming out, I will have probably more TV-focused episodes in certain weeks. So like The Bear or The Acolyte, and I might do a The Boys summary of the season. So stuff like that. But if there's other TV shows that are coming out this summer that you want me to talk about, do let me know. As always, please rate and review the podcast 5 stars on all your podcasting platforms. That is Spotify, Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Acast, and you can find me on YouTube as well at Watcher of All Things, where you can like and comment on the podcast. Let me know what you watched this week. Are you seeing the Bikeriders? Like and comment there. Subscribe as well, of course. Hit the notification bell so you know every time new things come out on the channel. You can email the show at watcherofallthings@gmail.com. Let me know there what you'd like me to talk about. Again, I'm happy to email back and correspond with you. I hope this email finds you well. You can find me on TikTok. Turns out the username did not change. It is still at watcher.of.allthings. And on Instagram, I am just Watcher of All Things. So find me on both of those. All of the socials are in the description or all the info below, along with the timestamps, of course, where you can bounce around. You can find my personal letterboxd, which is KikiJ70. That's KIKIJ70. Follow me there. I make lots of lists and I post my reviews right away after I watch. Follow all that good stuff. Share the podcast with a friend. Text it to them. They can enjoy the show as well. Say, hey, we saw that movie last week and here's a review I really liked. Or here's a review I absolutely hated and I disagree totally. You should hear what this buffoon is saying. And then you can email the show after and say what you disagreed about. Let's have a good discussion about what you didn't agree with or what you didn't enjoy or you did enjoy about a bad movie. Turns out you loved Madam Web. Let me know why. I would love to know. Yeah, all that good info is going to be under the show. Next week is Kinds of Kindness. I promise. I have my ticket. I'm seeing it Thursday night. I will do a review that I will try to edit quickly before I hit the road next weekend. As well, I'm seeing Leve at Ottawa Jazz Fest on Friday night, which I am so freaking excited for. It's only my second concert ever, so that's going to be really cool. Next week, Kinds of Kindness. I promise. Third time's the charm. It's coming out June 28th. And on the Canada Day Monday, July 1st, Kinds of Kindness will be out. And I will be away for the weekend, but I will have the episode in the can as if possible. I will try my best to have it out on time. But thank you all again so much for all of the support and lovely messages I get every week after episodes, or just like fun discussion and fun chats that we have. I really enjoy that. Tune in next week for Kinds of Kindness. I hope you have a phenomenal week. We're almost at the long weekend, Canadians, so just push through until the end, and I will see you in the next one.